Evening Chamber Ball 2025. Cue the video. Thank you for that. And we're already selling tickets quite quickly. And if this event is any indication, I'd make sure you go to the website and purchase your tickets as quickly as possible. We're really excited, and it's going to be a knockout event. Now, I'd also like now to move to thanking our supporting sponsors, the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Alberta. You may know them better as APEGA, and Alberta Blue Cross. They have been incredible partners. But I'd also like to thank our newest partner, Encore. They are the reason why this looks so incredible. I'm so impressed with what they did to collaborate with our brand. So thank you very much to all of our sponsors. And now I'd like to introduce our presenting sponsor, Capital Power. Leading Capital Power in its vision for growth and sustainability is CEO Avik Dey, and we're so grateful for their partnership today and throughout the year. Avik, please come and join me. There you go.
Climate change is a generational problem, one that must be solved with urgency, collaboration, and care. To protect our planet, our home, our future. But it's catalyzed immense opportunity, a moment in time for us to transform how our world works. So we all can prosper. At Capital Power, we're delivering reliable and affordable power today, building clean power systems for tomorrow, and creating balanced power solutions for a clean energy future. We're powering change by changing power. A balanced approach to low-carbon electricity requires game-changing solutions, crafted by passionate innovators and experts to deliver the clean, reliable, and affordable energy we all need today. And for our next generations to thrive. Be part of our energy.
Good afternoon, Edmonton. Firstly, Doug, thank you and your entire leadership team for your leadership, energy, and excitement for Edmonton's future. It's certainly infectious. And we're all honored and excited for you to take on that leadership, so thank you. And respectfully, I concede I do come from one of those office towers, but I represent over 300 staff at our plants who aim to deliver reliable, affordable, and clean electricity, so we take pride in that as well. It's an honor to be here as presenting sponsor for today's State of the Province address with our partner, the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Premier Smith, for bringing all of us together to share your vision for a thriving province. Today, we're seeing exceptional growth in our province. The Alberta Advantage is alive and well. And with that brings so many opportunities that have incredible potential to benefit our economy and the people of the province. And one of the things I take great satisfaction in is, what does it mean to be an Albertan? What does it mean for us to have that advantage? And for me, one of the things that most resonates as I work across North America and talk about what we're doing here in the province is that spirit of aspiration. We aim to find a solution. We aim for yes. We aspire to yes, instead of finding reasons for no. And I think Doug's words earlier perfectly captured that essence. At Capital Power, we see unprecedented demand for more energy as a generational opportunity, not just for us as a company, but for all of Alberta. Longer term, this could mean powering our communities with reliable and clean energy from small modular reactors technology we are currently assessing with our partner and nuclear experts, Ontario Power Generation, a symbol of partnership between provinces in this country. Nearer term, we're incredibly optimistic about Alberta's potential to host data centers, a much needed resource to power AI, and a major contributor to the energy expansion. I was earlier speaking to Minister Glubish, who has done a phenomenal job of advocating and advertising Alberta to the world in this regard. Alberta's geography, grid, innovative workforce, and electricity market make our province an ideal location to seize this opportunity of bringing data centers to our economy. Capital Power has been championing Alberta as an ideal location to global companies to bring their business and this industry here. We're focused on delivering balanced power solutions they need, and Alberta's skilled workforce will support their operations. In fact, our Genesee generating station, which we proudly moved off of coal to 100% natural gas earlier this year, and in fact will be the most efficient natural gas plant in all of Canada, has great potential to site and power these data centers. The pieces are aligning in Alberta's favor to bring this innovation here, and we really appreciate the government's initiative to support a regulatory environment that makes it possible for not just the data centers, but the electricity market as a whole. This importantly opens a dialogue that ensures opportunities like this benefit all parties, and most importantly, Albertans. The collaborative approach the government takes with industry makes me extremely excited about the future for our province. With that, I'll turn the mic back to Doug. Thank you.
Excellent. Our strategic partnerships with Capital Power, with Alberta Blue Cross, with APEGA, and with so many other business leaders around the city and around the region are incredibly important. But our partnership with the province of Alberta is incredibly important to us as well, because we all have the same goals of growing our business community and growing our region. It ensures that we champion policies that foster investment, nurture talent, and ensure over the long term that our city and our province improve on their global competitiveness. With that, it is my pleasure now to introduce Alberta's Premier, the Honourable Danielle Smith. Since taking office as Alberta's 19th Premier, Premier Smith has been a dedicated advocate for Alberta's economic growth and for maintaining balance between free enterprise and the role of government. Both I and the business community here are looking forward to hearing your vision, Premier. So please join me one more time in welcoming Premier Danielle Smith to the stage.
Well, thank you so much. Lots of people to thank this morning. Let me start by thanking Elder Irene for starting us off in such a good way and putting us in a good mood with your joke. I have to tell you, Evander also gave me a signed jersey, so I'm pleased to have gotten that as well. Let me also thank Doug for his kind introduction. I believe he is 1 year and 3 weeks into his job. I think it was pretty close to this time last year. He's done an amazing job. I'll have more to say about that in a minute. Thanks to Avik Day as well for your incredible leadership in helping to push the envelope to get to carbon neutrality in our electricity grid by 2050. I think you could even think you might be able to do it a little bit sooner than that, but I enjoyed hearing your vision for how to get there. And as well, thank you to my cabinet and caucus colleagues for being here. You should know that you've got Minister Nate Glubish, Minister Cyril Turton, Minister Dan Williams, Minister Nathan Neudorf, Minister Dale Nally, Minister Adriana Lagrange, and Minister Sigurdsson, for those of you who are in those industries and want to lobby them. But we also have my MLA colleagues, Nolan Devendrishan. We have got Nate Horner, a couple more ministers there, Brandon Lunty, Rick Wilson, another one, Martin Long, and Scott Sinclair. I also understand that there are some members of the official opposition here too, Heather Sweet, Nathan Ip, Raki Pancholi, David Shepard, and Rihanna Hoyle. And so I think that demonstrates to you that it's mission accomplished. You've got everyone in the room, decision makers in the room who want to hear a bit more about the Chamber vision. And I can tell you what I love so much about the Chamber is the incredible policy work that you always do. I had an occasion to have a roundtable discussion earlier today with a few business leaders, and I think you guys thought you were lobbying me, but I ended up lobbying you. I think they took away an assignment of 3 or 4 major policy areas that I'm hoping the Chamber can do some work on to be able to help our government navigate some issues for small business. So thanks again for having me back, and thank you for doing so much to help small and medium-sized enterprises. It's never easy out there for entrepreneurs and business leaders. Alberta's economy would not be such a powerhouse without you, and I appreciate how hard you work to keep businesses informed. Of course, our government is another factor in the success of private industry, and like the Chamber of Commerce, we are doing everything we can to support you. To me, this means creating the right conditions and then getting out of the way. So we've put in place Canada's most competitive tax regime, and we've reduced red tape sharply, and it's paying off. Alberta has the country's highest per capita business investment. This year, private investment is expected to reach its highest level since 2015. And venture capital dollars, they keep on flowing in, even as the rest of Canada has seen a 30% decline. Alberta businesses have created jobs at higher rates than any other provinces over the last year, and our oil producers have a new outlet with the completion of the Trans Mountain expansion, and our natural gas producers very soon will too, when LNG Canada starts up in full operation. So all of this adds up to a sunny outlook for Alberta's economy. The Edmonton metropolitan region is getting a lot of the benefits, and I should say, because I say this to every business group, that you will find what our government wants to do is be scrupulously fair in the support that we give to both Edmonton and Calgary. You are equally important business centers for us. And so if you find that there are any areas where you think that you might be falling behind, we want to know about it, because I can tell you, Calgary looks up longingly at the amount of downtown post-secondary students that you have with the universities. They look up longingly to the event center and the incredible vibrancy that that has created. But we want to make sure that we're creating fairness between our two regions, because they are both important. With the investments we've made in the McEwen Business Center, the investments we're making in Windspear, the investments we're making in LRT, these things are important to us. Let me talk a little bit about how Edmonton metropolitan region is thriving. Employment in Edmonton rose by more than 5% last year, contributing almost half of the province's overall gains. And Maclean's named Edmonton one of the most affordable places to live in Canada. Industrial companies from places like Toronto and Vancouver are locating here because real estate prices are reasonable and the investment climate is friendlier to business. In the first half of this year, Edmonton had the second highest business growth rate of any Canadian metropolitan area, just behind Calgary. There are major projects underway in the region, including Dow's Path to Zero project, Air Products hydrogen facility, the Strathcona Refinery renewable diesel facility, and plans for the Yellowhead mainline natural gas pipeline. And 2 carbon capture projects, Atlas and Polaris, started construction this past summer. The rest of the country and the world are all noticing these positive signs. Last year, an all-time high of nearly 200,000 people moved to Alberta. In some ways, it is a nice problem to have. This surge means more tax revenues, more investment, and more talent for the labor market in the longer term. But there are a few impacts that we have to manage as well, such as the immediate strain on public services and infrastructure, and we are doing everything we can to keep up. Take, for example, our K-12 education system. After modest enrollment growth over the last number of years, Alberta is now adding about 33,000 new students per year. That's enough to fill 35 schools. Budget 2024 allocated $2.1 billion for new school construction and modernizations over 3 years to add about 35,000 new student spaces. But in talking with our school boards, it became very clear that much more is necessary. That's why we announced our School Construction Accelerator Program. Over the next 3 budgets, we are prioritizing construction of up to 90 new schools and 24 more modernizations or replacements, expanding the modular classroom program and supporting the expansion of public charter schools so that we can create more than 200,000 student spaces within the next 7 years. So far, we've advanced 10 priority school projects to the next stages of development, including 1 new school and 2 replacement schools in Edmonton, moving from planning to design. And we want to begin construction on more approved projects before the end of the school year. I should mention that we're working very closely with the city on this, letting them know that as soon as they have the sites serviced and permitted and zoned and ready, we want to be able to accelerate those projects. I do wish that all of Alberta's challenges could be resolved with this kind of direct action. Unfortunately, sometimes external forces stand in the way, and by that I mean our federal government. Consider that Ottawa has had a major impact on the rising cost of living. Families and workers and businesses have been hit hard by the higher cost for everyday essentials. And our government has responded with relief, including pausing auto insurance rate increases, providing seniors with discounts and improved benefits, taking action to lower Albertans' utility bills. Of course, we have the $15 a day daycare program that saves families about $700 per child per month. And yet, Ottawa persists with its federal carbon tax, which raises the cost of everything. The carbon tax is one of the main drivers of rising costs across the country, hitting Canadians' wallets on everything from food and fuel to home heating. And as we announced yesterday, we're taking the federal government to court over their carbon tax once again, and specifically the double standard that they have created in exempting home heating oil in Eastern Canada from the carbon tax, but not natural gas home heating that we have here. Meanwhile, here in Alberta, as I mentioned, the carbon tax on natural gas used to heat our homes and businesses in bitterly cold temperatures is more than triple the cost of natural gas itself. Not only that, the Bank of Canada has verified that the carbon tax increases inflation year over year. The carbon tax is an unnecessary, punitive cost that does nothing to address affordability. And higher costs of living means that everything in life is more expensive, and we're seeing the impact in the cost of our housing too. Alberta needs more affordable housing, and we're working with public, private, and nonprofit partners to build it. We've cut red tape for developers. We're working on supports for low and middle income renters, as well as for prospective home buyers. Since 2019, we've invested nearly $850 million to build more than 5,100 affordable units and 900 shelter spaces. Our Affordable Housing Partnership programs is helping to fund construction of 1,500 units, and our Stronger Foundation strategy will let us support 82,000 low-income households by 2031, an increase of 40% compared to 2021 when the strategy launched. That will put a roof over the head of 25,000 more households. But Ottawa hasn't been fulfilling its obligations. Ideally, they would partner with us to ensure that housing solutions are responsive to local needs and provincial priorities. Instead, they've got into the habit of attaching ideologically motivated strings and conditions to their funding. So we have joined with other jurisdictions to insist that federal housing dollars go directly to the provinces rather than to the municipalities. And we've also asked that funding be delivered on a per capita basis so that provinces and territories are all treated fairly. Fairness and justice in the way the federal government addresses public safety is also needed. Without Ottawa's cooperation, we can't always keep dangerous offenders off the streets. After years of protests, Ottawa has promised reforms to bail legislation that instructed courts to find the least intrusive release conditions. We had high hopes that these amendments would bring in some common sense changes, and unfortunately, it hasn't been the case. It hasn't worked. So we're keeping up the fight together with other premiers. We've demanded that more changes be made to bail and sentencing practices to stop the revolving door of those who should be kept behind bars getting back out into the street. It's time for Ottawa to work with us and to do a review of legislation to identify where and how we can strengthen public safety. But as we wait for Ottawa to act, our government is taking action where we can. And here in Edmonton, we provided extra funding to hire 50 more police officers and improve safety on public transit. We've worked with the city to close down encampments since they are hotbeds for drug and gang activity and crime. And we opened the Navigation and Support Center to ensure that vulnerable Albertans have immediate access to healthcare, that they can get ID, and that they can find supports for recovery and for housing. And we're also moving forward with a provincial ankle bracelet electronic monitoring program. Once our program is up and running, offenders will be subject to court-ordered monitoring and will have to wear GPS devices. And they'll be tracked 24/7 by a centralized unit within Alberta Correctional Services. All of these are important measures in cracking down on crime and social disorder. And I know many of you deal with the effects of this every day at your businesses. And you will also see the impacts of the mental health and addiction challenges that we face every day. We understand that every community is struggling with the consequences of mental health challenges and the addiction crisis. Our response, which we're proud to call the Alberta Recovery Model, includes significantly expanding capacity and reducing barriers to life-saving addiction treatment. We've added more than 10,000 new publicly funded treatment spaces since 2019, while removing user fees, which were costing $1,200 a month. And we're establishing 11 recovery communities across the province. Once they're all operating, Alberta will have more than 700 new long-term treatment beds that will serve thousands annually. We've partnered with 4 nations, including as well the Métis community, so that we can have 5 of those facilities that will include Indigenous healing practices in them. And our approach is recognized across Canada as a way for people suffering from addiction and mental health challenges to get help and to have hope instead of more opportunities for substance abuse. And now that approach is centralized in Recovery Alberta, which was launched in September. So Recovery Alberta is one of 4 new health organizations that we are in the process of setting up in order to refocus our healthcare system. The system we have is fragmented, it lacks capacity, and it has too much bureaucracy. And the result has been long waits for basic care and surgery, and pain and stress for patients and for families. We have refused to accept this circumstance when we came in, so we're fixing it. And that means creating a modern, responsive, and unified system centered on the people who use it and the professionals on the front line who run it. I've mentioned Recovery Alberta, Primary Care Alberta will start operations next month. That, of course, is how we're moving towards making sure every person is connected with a family practitioner, whether it's a family doctor or nurse practitioner, and team-based approach. And we will continue working on the acute care and assisted living agencies as well. We'll have more to say about that. All of this work is necessary to ensure that every aspect of our society is running well. Alberta is not without its challenges, but I firmly believe that we are on the right track. And to bring things back full circle to the economy again, the proof is in the pudding. I already outlined how well Alberta is doing economically. Unfortunately, Canada's productivity isn't growing like we want it to, especially compared to other advanced economies. The surest way that a society can fix its productivity problem is to encourage investment. And in Canada, that's been an issue, especially over the last decade. We've seen business investment drop off big time. Capital is mobile. It goes where it can get the highest and safest returns. And our nation is increasingly seen as a risky investment. Taxes and fees eat up profits, while projects stall for years waiting approval. There are too many regulatory roadblocks and too much red tape, and too many barriers to the free movement of goods and services and labor. So when you add all of these impediments together, it's ridiculously difficult to get anything built in Canada these days. The current federal government has been in charge for nearly a decade, and they have done little to change the conditions or to bring this country together in a shared vision of prosperity. In fact, the last decade has been marked by the cancellation of well over $100 billion worth of Canadian energy projects. The need for change is urgent, and the productivity issue shows the contrast between us and the federal government. While Ottawa sits on its hands and preaches, we act. Alberta's government has long called for ending barriers to interprovincial trade and labor mobility. We removed most of Alberta's exceptions unilaterally under the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. Earlier this month, we also sponsored a productivity summit in Calgary at the leadership of our finance minister, Nate Horner. It brought together experts and leaders from across the country to consider the productivity problem and how to solve it. This is the approach that you can expect to see us take on every file. Action, not passiveness. Practicality, not ideology. Progress, not stagnation. You don't fix a problem by pretending it doesn't exist. You identify the root cause, talk to the people who understand it, and you implement solutions. This is what we did on red tape, it's what we did on taxes, and it's what we're doing now to ease pressure on infrastructure, businesses' bottom lines, and Albertans' quality of life. So I am looking forward to hearing from everyone here today on what more we need to do. I know you're not shy in telling us, and nor is our host, Ryan Jesperson. He won't be shy in asking me the questions, but we also want to know what more we need to do here and how we can best do it, because that is how government is supposed to work. And that is how our government will continue to work. So I'll be glad to answer your questions now. Thank you so much. Yeah, of course, 100%.
Thank you very much, Premier. As always, I very much appreciate your candidness and clarity on the direction that the province is undertaking. I'd now like to invite our host up, Ryan Jesperson, who is going to ask the questions for our discussion today. And all of you know Ryan, right? He's iconic from this city. He has one of the greatest podcasts, one of the most popular podcasts across the country, and he does a lot to help promote Edmonton and this region. Welcome, Ryan Jesperson, please.
Thanks for the kind words. You bet. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Doug, and wonderful to see you both. Premier, good to see you as well. Ahead of a big weekend for you down in Red Deer, the UCP AGM. October's been big for both of these leaders. Doug, as Premier mentioned, you've just observed your 1-year anniversary as president and CEO of Edmonton's Chamber, and I'm sure it's fresh in your mind and memory that on the 6th of October, 2 years ago, you won the leadership of the UCP, swearing in as the 19th Premier on the 11th of October. So fall has been big. Yeah, it's kind of anti the narrative. As the leaves fall, these two find new opportunities and seize them. And I know that we have a room of, congratulations, Doug, to you and your team as well. My understanding is they had to add more than 200 seats at this. The Premier State of the Province, more than sold out crowd of 1,000 business leaders and power players in the Metro Edmonton region. It's an honor to be here with you all. Premier, let's dig into these legislative priorities that are planned or maybe even could be proposed. And I'll come to you next, Doug, that you think will have the greatest impact directly on Edmonton's business landscape.
Well, much of what we have done already, I think, has begun to see us go in that direction. When I said that we have the best business climate, bar none, across Canada, our corporate income tax rate is 30% below the next closest province, lower than the combined state and federal rates in 44 U.S. states. We've got no health premiums tax, we've got no capital tax, no payroll tax, no sales tax. All of those things add, I think, to an environment that makes it wonderful to invest. But I would also say that the investments that we're making, and I was talking with a representative from Winspear about this, is that people come to a community for good jobs, but they stay because there are interesting things to do. And so our investments in some of those cultural assets, whether it's Winspear, whether it's helping with event centers, whether it's helping to build out that community infrastructure, I think that's going to be vitally important. And we're beginning to see as well the growth and the collaboration that is happening through Edmonton Global and the regional development that is happening, attracting so much investment in our new green sectors, net zero hydrogen, net zero petrochemicals. I think that is going to continue to be an attractor here. I guess the final thing, and I may have mentioned this last year, but it's really getting more and more traction, I think, is what's happening with the Port Edmonton idea that I think was a bit before its time. I know it was championed by the Chamber, but this is the perfect time to champion it now. I look at Port of Prince Rupert as our port for the reasons that Doug talked about. And there is an incredible amount of opportunity for Edmonton to be that conduit to get goods to the Port of Prince Rupert, but also create an inland port so that you're able to transport things by air as well. So I just think there's nothing but a bright future for the Edmonton Capital Region.
You're obviously familiar with legislative sessions. As a former cabinet minister yourself, Minister of Municipal Affairs, you've obviously had some big portfolios. So you approach a session, no throne speech, continuation of a session, but with maybe a little bit more insight than the average person might. As CEO of the Chamber, what's something you're really keeping an eye on?
Well, we're always watching for, especially, on behalf of small businesses, the Premier would know these stats. In the United States, small businesses make up about 52 to 55% of the economy. Here in Canada, it's well over 80%. And when you add in small, medium-sized businesses, we get over 90% of our economy driven by small and medium-sized enterprises. So with a city like Edmonton, with a region like Edmonton, access to more markets, just as the Premier talked about, investments in infrastructure that help us access those markets, and any initiative that helps reduce some of the potential tax burden on businesses. Every small business, and I'm a small business owner too, takes almost 100% of any extra revenue they have to pour back into the business to help it grow. So we're always watching for those investments in infrastructure, access to new markets, and helping to reduce the tax burden in any way possible.
I'd be remiss, since I know that our Service Alberta and Red Tape Reduction Minister, Danielle, is here. We have a standing bill, I think almost every legislative session, which is our red tape reduction bill. So I just put that to the community here so that if you identify something that really, really irritates you, know that every single legislative session, we have an opportunity with a bill that comes forward to be able to make some of those changes. So you'll see when that is introduced a number of different areas that we're addressing. And we've reduced our red tape burden by over 30%. We met our target. Minister Nally has some more initiatives that he's doing on permitting and licensing. It'll take a little bit more time before that legislation is ready to go. But we're very serious about making sure that you can get to profitability faster. And the way you get to profitability faster is your business gets set up faster, your construction takes place faster, and we know that we have to work with the municipalities to make that happen too.
I want to ask you in a second, Premier, about Alberta's big investment, I think about $7 million in a national ad campaign taking aim at the emissions cap and sort of what you're doing with regards to Alberta's reputation within the country. I want to ask you about the global initiative or your thoughts on advertising the Edmonton region to the world. But first I want to ask you, what role, Doug, you think that businesses play in elevating Edmonton's profile on both a national and a global scene?
Well, that's a great question, and I know that I've said this before. In fact, we said it when the Oilers made their run last year, and we were getting so much global attention. When people show up in businesses, and it starts really small, and I know this is going to sound a bit insignificant, but when a tourist or someone from outside of the region shows up in your business, to tell them where the next great restaurant to eat is, or where the great next symphony is in the Windspear, or some other experience to have at Edmonton, elevates our brand. I think sometimes we're too timid about how great this city is. And if we continue to share the success stories of the others that are in our region and in our city, it doesn't just go to our neighbors. I think it expands well beyond our borders.
What's your take on that as the Premier of the province and essentially marketing Edmonton globally and the potential you see in the region?
Well, I must say that I think Edmonton, with the partnerships that they've made, are doing an incredible job of being able to get that message out. I think the Chamber itself, when I think about the influence it's had on me over the years on policy, economic corridors, Port Edmonton, these are some ideas that I think generated from the Edmonton Chamber. So I think it's vitally important for this group to work together with the other business leaders, and they put forward a presentation about how to revitalize downtown. When we have that showcase of the world looking to the capital region, that's the best time to take advantage of it. We worked collaboratively with the Edmonton Police Service, not knowing that we were going to get so far in the playoff run, but knowing that when we do well, that lots of people want to be able to come downtown and enjoy the restaurants and enjoy the festivities and enjoy the outdoor activity. And so we were pleased to have been able to partner with Edmonton to start addressing some of that downtown safety issue and giving people another chance to give downtown a chance, because we'd heard of the issues that people had of coming downtown and not feel safe. And we're going to continue to do more of that. But when you have those incredible showcases, being able to take advantage of them, I think it allows for the international community to see us in a new light. And we're just going to see continued dividends paid from that.
There's a lot of talk about infrastructure, especially coming from municipalities and Alberta's infrastructure deficit. And when you talk infrastructure, for some people that's bridges. For some people in Calgary, it's water mains. You know, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different interpretations of it. But Premier, what steps is your government taking to really prioritize investments in Edmonton's infrastructure growth? Well,
we continue to partner with both the cities on LRT infrastructure, which is vitally important. We're also doing a 15 million commuter rail feasibility study. I know Minister Devin Dreeshen is here to talk about or to look into the feasibility of that. One of the things we would like to see, and I talk to business audiences about this because I think it would make a big difference, is how can we get rail service from Edmonton International all the way to downtown? There's a couple of issues, I think, on the existing right-of-way that had been decommissioned in the city, I think in the White, or in the Strathcona area. But I think that if we worked creatively, we would be able to solve some of those issues. And then once you've got Edmonton connected to the airport, Calgary connected to their airport, then you can start having a discussion about how do you connect Calgary and Edmonton with high-speed or slow-speed rail. But that's the kind of thinking that we have to do right now, because when I went to Toronto and visited their Union Station and started asking them about their Metro links and how they started building out their GO train, it started building out with the first line between Oakville and Pickering. That was when the region was 1.6 million people. So we're kind of in that zone right now. So this is the time for us to be starting to talk about that. The other major area is getting better direct service for direct flights out of Edmonton International. I haven't got an update on that. I think we used to have 54 direct flights before COVID. So I'd be interested in knowing, I don't know if Myron's here, maybe he can give me an update on whether or not we've surpassed that. But that's vitally important to being a gateway to the world, is that you can easily get out to the world. So I often talk with WestJet about how to do that. We also are talking from a regional air service point of view, how do we get better service to Edmonton from Lloydminster and Cold Lake and Fort McMurray and Grand Prairie, because when you have that feeder group coming in here, that also then makes the case for why we would need to have more direct flights elsewhere. And all of the work that I think is going to be done on the cargo side, Edmonton International is doing a tremendous job of showing leadership there. So we want to do what we can to support them.
I'm one of the Albertans that would definitely use a high-speed rail line between Edmonton and Calgary. I love the idea of, I'm going to be honest, a couple of cocktails on my way down. I'm going to Uber to my parents' house when I arrive. But I need to know, because this is an idea that's been floated by many premiers, and it's been an idea for many people. The scoop here at the Edmonton Chamber State of the Province, like on a level of seriousness from 0 to 10, 0 being this is an absolute joke, and 10 being we are definitely building it. High-speed rail between the two major cities. Where is it on your 0 to 10?
I'll tell you, the route from the Edmonton International Airport to downtown, I want that to be 100%. We want to figure out a way to do that. I think it has to be. The route from Calgary Airport to Calgary downtown, also 100%. I think that the feasibility is going to be there. And I must tell you, we have an unsolicited bid process. And Ellis Dawn came forward with an unsolicited bid to connect the two cities. So we feel that our role probably is to try to get the rights of way in place to establish the connections in Calgary and Edmonton, and then I believe a private sector company would be able to step in to do the building. That's what we're hoping, is that we can partner with both.
Do you remember off the top of your head what the Elliston bid came in at approximately? Is that?
No, you'll have to get Devin on the hot seat next time.
Weird. I don't know. I just thought, you never know if you don't ask, right? What's something, Doug, that you think, like with regards to critical investments in infrastructure, what do you think would have the greatest impact on Edmonton's growing business community?
Well, that's tough, because the Ports to Plains corridor, Port Edmonton, the investment in our infrastructures, and Port of Prince Rupert is such valuable assets and such a great opportunity. But I would say, and we were here last year when I asked about investment in the downtown, some of those wraparound infrastructure projects. And Premier, you challenged the City of Edmonton and all of its economic partners to go and create a plan that would talk about investments in the downtown core to rejuvenate and revitalize it, instead of having 10 different wish lists, to have one. And the downtown investment plan that was led by Alex at the DRC and Panita and the Downtown Business Association and Build Edmonton and so many other partners, including ourselves, is that plan. And we're really looking forward to having those strategic investments in that'll turn this city into what it can be.
Well, and let me say, part of the approach that we took in Calgary, because they wanted us to do the same sort of last mile investment, is that the provincial role is to assist with public infrastructure. So when the event center proposal came before us, we are investing in an underpass so that we have the ability to get better traffic, the LRT station that's going to be at site, some of the walkways, the outdoor space, demolishing the Saddle Dome and building a community rink. And so I would just put that to you, because I know that the Oilers Group is quite keen to develop the entire entire block area beside where the events district is, which has been extraordinary, I think, for the city in really accelerating that downtown gentrification. And so whatever we can do to assist with the public infrastructure elements of that and the public space element of that, that's what I would ask the business community to consider, because there'll be lots of infrastructure that needs to be done, whether it's water, whether it's roadways, whether it's a public areas for greeting and for meeting and doing events. Those are the kind of things that we're prepared to partner with.
One of the reasons I'm so proud to partner with the Edmonton Chamber, can't wait for Chamber Ball. It promises to be another incredible event, but I meet like 10 or 20 new people every single time that expose me to the opportunity that lies in their industries or their businesses, and obviously the energy in this room is incredible. I want to talk about opportunity though and challenges over the next 5 years. Your perspective. I'm not calling it, but pollsters say there's going to be a change in Ottawa. I'm curious to see your insights on how you think that could hypothetically impact Alberta. So over the next 5 years, a couple significant challenges and a couple of real opportunities you think Alberta's looking at.
Well, look, I mean, we partner with the feds in areas where we can. We've been partners with them on the Dow Chemical Petrochemical project, on air products. If Heidelberg makes it to the final investment decision on net zero cement, that is something we'd be able to partner with them as well. And so we do look for those opportunities. And as difficult as it has been to get pipelines built, two got built, the Trans Mountain Pipeline as well as the Coastal GasLink, which are going to be extraordinary. We'll continue working with them as well on a pathway to get ammonia to market, which could also be out of Port of Prince Rupert, as well as building out the hydrogen economy now that we have some certainty about who our partner is in British Columbia. So look, I mean, I would rather that they stay in their own lane and not keep on taking cheap shots at our province with emissions caps, and which are really production caps, and we'll keep on pushing back on that. But we'll be able to work with them if they do get a renewed mandate. If there is a change in government, I would say that we should really start having a new conversation about additional egress. We already know the impact to productivity and GDP that having additional production barrels getting to the coast has had. I believe that our industry is going to be the first to decarbonize with the Pathways project, and there will be more and more uses for our bitumen. Asphalt is one of the biggest uses for our bitumen. So if we decarbonize it at the front end, and we're using it in a non-combustion purpose, we have every reason to believe that this industry can continue to grow. And there's carbon fiber and other opportunities for us to use it in different ways. So I'm excited about that. We need to restart a conversation about more egress. And we also need to be very proud of our natural gas industry. Natural gas is going to be, and building out the natural gas infrastructure is building out the infrastructure for a future decarbonized economy, because it will be ammonia or it will be hydrogen. And right now, the most efficient way to move things around is with LNG. So I think that one of the things that we should embrace is that LNG export to displace fuels that are higher emitting is good for global emissions reduction. And that's the message that I think we'll be able to get if we do end up with a change in government.
Just a quick follow-up question I want to ask in particular about Edmonton. I mean, if you found a way to weave in your perspective on what the government can do around public safety for businesses and residents alike, but maybe the biggest challenge you see, Premier, for Edmonton over the next 5 years.
The biggest challenge is going to be, and I hope there's some councillors here, maybe removing some of the permits and barriers to home construction. We want to continue growing. Right now, our construction industry has done an amazing job increasing construction of homes and rental homes by over 30% year over year. But I'm told that there are some areas of the city that could probably be developed, but they're not issuing permits and development plans, which would delay the construction by as much as 10 years. And so we're going to do, there's at least somebody who wants to build some homes in Leduc County, former Leduc County. So do know, I've heard the message loud and clear, and we're going to make sure that we do everything to remove the delays on our end. We have about 14 departments that have the potential to slow things up. That's why I was saying that Dale Nally's pretty excited about that. But our gentle pressure to the municipalities is going to be coming next. I mean, when you talk to in the Edmonton capital region, and you hear Leduc and you hear St. Albert bragging about being able to do a development permit in 30 days and a building permit in 3 days, that's the kind of thing we need to be seeing. That's the kind of speed that business moves at. And if we can do what we can to assist Edmonton in moving in that direction, it'll benefit all of us, because that's what's coming. People want to be here. People are excited about being in Alberta. We want to continue to offer incredible jobs and an incredible standard of living and quality of life, but we need to make sure that we're keeping up with the new arrivals with the proper home construction, and cities have a huge role to play in that.
Thanks, Premier. Doug, in closing, I'd be curious for what advice you might have or insights you might have for both businesses and for government. Same question, 5-year time frame.
Well, I think Edmonton's, it's always this case. The biggest opportunity is also the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is the biggest opportunity. I think in the case of Edmonton, it's that for the next 5 years, we need to not lose heart and keep resilient, because things are going to change. But this city, this region has so much to offer that the only reason why we will fail, why our economy won't grow, we won't attract another 1 million people here, we won't become a leader in northern Canada and across Alberta and across Canada, is if we lose sight of what we have to offer. And so I'd say we need to be as resilient as our Edmonton Oilers are and go for the cup every single time, year after year.
All right, great stuff. Let's show our appreciation to Premier Danielle Smith and Doug Griffith, CEO at the Chamber. Thanks, Premier. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Premier Smith, for sharing your time and your insights with us today. And thanks to all of you for participating in this important conversation about Alberta's future. And thank you, Ryan, as always, for being an incredible host. You always have the best questions. I hope everyone leaves here today feeling incredibly informed and inspired about the future of Alberta, but also about the future of Edmonton and our role in the future of Alberta, because it is such an important role. Thank you once again to our sponsors, and thank you again to my absolutely incredible team. I know I get a lot of credit for the great things that are happening at the Chamber, but I get the honor of being the guy on stage, but the work getting done is being done by an absolutely amazing team, so thank you to all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your lunch, and we'll see you out there.